What's up guys, Barry Gaming here today to finally do a Skerei guide. So many of you have been asking how to jump into it, how to start building that Skerei army. And I'm here to try to give you at least my advice. Do I know if this is the best way to go about it? Not really, but from my experiences, this is what I have felt works best. I mean, the ultimate goal in a Skerei army is to achieve 4 E5 Skereis just like this, a very strong Heart Watcher, probably around E3, something like that, and a healer for certain aspects of the game such as PvP, certain broken spaces, and Amun-Ra really does fit that role so well. I mean, the whole reason of building the Skerei army is that, let's be honest, it's the big old giant PvE numbers. Everybody loves to see it. It feels good when you finally build it. But it takes some time and a lot of dedication to get these guys going. I wanted to start off and let you guys know the weaknesses of Skerei, because I think in order to make an educated decision to build this, you have to be prepared to make a lot of sacrifices in the game. First off, PvP. While he's not horrible, they do struggle in PvP, especially because of CC and their low HP pool. As far as their passives go, you do get some native damage reduce, which is nice, but CC is the biggest issues when it comes to Skerei. The other one is Aspen Dungeon. While I will say an E5 Skerei should get you to Hell 1 pretty easily, past that, you've seen. Go watch the videos. If you haven't watched the other videos, the Aspen Dungeon videos on the channel, go check those out. You'll see where and why Skerei struggles. He's an amazing healer node breaker. Anytime he's up against a Vesa or any of those waves, he'll just absolutely obliterate them, especially if you can build them. I think you usually want to build them with Resilience and not Purify. That heal will be enough to keep them alive, and it usually just bursts those healer nodes down. The other item that they really struggle in is Brave Trials. Much like PvP, but even worse because you don't heal at the end of every fight. Skereis have it rough. They cannot solo carry you. Even in a group, it makes it very difficult. Because, let's be honest, early game, mid game, you want that one solo hero like a Valkyrie, Cthulhu, Horus, Penny. Something like that that can carry you at least into night, if not further. Next, let's go over some of the strengths for Skerei. Obviously PvE, but I want to break it down a little more for you. When he is paired, a group of them are paired with, say, like an Amun-Ra in Tower of Oblivion, they can do amazing things. They can burst down waves that you normally would have trouble with normal teams. Oberon waves, super easy. Mim waves, takes a couple tries, but the burst damage kills all of them together. Pretty simple. It's surprisingly good, I will say. Of course, the big one will be guild bosses and Flame Shrine. Those two, Skerei just does god tier damage. I mean, that's where you'll see the biggest damage numbers in game, especially versus Molassa. As you saw, we're in the 50+ billion mark per fight. Broken Spaces is another great spot for Skereis. I think last month for myself, it only took about 80 to 85 badges to full clear. Granted, I have a powerful Heart Watcher and an Amun-Ra. Amun-Ra is pretty necessary for Broken Spaces 7. So just remember that it's not something you guys can build immediately, and it is a little hard to work towards. One of the biggest things that makes Skerei so good in PvE is his healing. E5 Balanced Strike. This right here is just a lifesaver. You will fill your health bar up every round, even with just basic attacks. It is the whole reason why you can build 4 Skerei, a Heart Watcher, and a Burn Hero. I like using Deathsworn, that's my personal opinion. But it allows you to run healerless PvE, and it is amazing. So the first thing we need to start off with, though, is how we start building the Skerei army. This might sound weird, but I actually recommend not making Skerei your first hero you focus on. If you do, it will really hurt you in the early mid game because of those weaknesses we talked about, Brave Trials, Aspen Dungeon, those type things that you really need to try to push a little bit in. And Seal Land, one of them will not do very well, while as the other heroes we'll talk about will do decently in Abyss. But since you're going to be orbing exclusively in Abyss, and when I say exclusively, every orb and every branch needs to be used in Abyss unless you want this to take forever. So every single orb, and I would highly recommend trying to build someone like Cthulhu as your first hero. He is an amazing solo carry. He can clear solo with destroyers up to, I think, Seal Land 17 right now. Pretty sure. Sounds like it's a good idea to me, right? But if you can't get lucky, another great, I won't go great, decent first hero to level is King Barton. Yes, he has fallen off severely since E5. But as a first E5 early game, he is not that bad. That's what I made. He was my first E5. Kind of regret it a little bit, but I learned, and he did get a slight buff as well since I did that. But he is not bad. He can do about up to Seal Land 10. Not amazing, not horrible, but he'll carry you decently in Aspen Dungeon, Brave Trials. He's a tank in Brave Trial solo. He can, if anything, you'll need to add people in to do damage, but he rarely will die in your Brave Trials. You'll get stuck because you can't kill like a Valkyrie or something like that. But he is another great option to go for. And like I said, I would try to pick one of them as your first E5s. Nakia you could do, but she struggles so much in other parts of the game. An easy one to build, a Berea, he's decent. Nothing amazing, he's decent. And if you really need to go the bad luck route, Dentalion is also another good hero to take up in the early game because of his healing, his tank ability. He gets damage reduced as the fight goes on longer. They're all pretty good ideas to go early game to try to get at least a semi carry. Once you do have your E5 carry though, you can do one of two different things. You can either start building your first carry from scratch, or I kind of more personally feel this way. It depends on which your E5 is. If your first E5 is Cthulhu, definitely just start building the other scaries. You're not even going to want to consider replacing. But if it's King Barton, Berea, Dentalion, one of those, you could do a swap. I'm not against that. It's a very easy thing, but if you are going to swap, make sure you have enough copies of Skerei to build two of them to at least one E5 and one E3, but I recommend both E5. If you do anything less, like make an E5 and like a 10-star, it's gonna hurt. It's not gonna feel great, honestly. You really only see Skerei start becoming strong once you have two at E5. So yes, it does feel bad when you're building a Skerei army to not build the Skereis right away, but you have to wait. You have to be patient, get all those copies up, get 18 copies, and then just smash them into your lineup, especially if you don't have the Cthulhu. Do a swap on your E5, get the food to make that second E5 as soon as possible, and you will not regret it, trust me. One Skerei alone, very lackluster in all aspects of the game. Two together starts being very, very good in Abyss. So we did discuss how to get to the copies a little faster. I highly recommend using every single Prophet Orb, every branch swap, and yes, even feathers. I know a lot of you probably gonna like, oh, you're always supposed to leave that for light and dark. If you want the Skerei army, do not plan to immediately build anything else. Feathers can be used for Skerei copies, yes. You'll gain so much from this. Plus, Skerei feels like it's one of the least given out heroes in my experience. Yes, he's sometimes in shelter or campaign loot, something like that. But hell, I feel like even Ada's and Amun-Ra's are given out. They're rewards for the bigger events, but I still feel like I see them much more than I do Skereis overall. So if you want to build other heroes at a later time, you can save those elite copies. Do not build them at all until your Skerei army is done. Besides Heartwatcher, Amun-Ra, things like that. But I mean, I made this bad sin. I used everything outside of Abyss as food for this army. And yes, that even means I've foddered off probably a 9-star Ada, things like that. I know. Let the hate flow in, as Wrath used to do. Just build Valkyrie and make her food on the mid-tier account. It's kind of how it felt like for me too. I took just about anything and turned it into food for Skerei. Do I recommend it? No, but yes, it is the fastest way to get there. And it really just comes down to what your preference is. Don't follow the masses when you're building a Skerei army. You have to go your own route. But really, the only other thing you have to save up is your Dark. You might want to save just for Amun-Ra's. You need that first 10-star, or really 9-star plus a 6-star. After that, doesn't really matter where the food and Dark goes. And Forest, of course, you need to build your Heart Watcher up. Early game, you want to get her up at least decently high, but we'll go over the supporting players a little bit later on. As far as gear goes, you are going to want to get the full mage set for all your Skereis, for PvP, things like that. In PvE, most of the time, you're going to want to run the 3-piece 6-star, so that you can get, let me grab a 6-star real quick. Where are you? Okay, so the 6-star, if you have 3-piece on, gives you 21% attack. That is much, much better than if you had the mage set pieces on. As you see, it's speed, HP, HP precision, not great. Even weapon, attack, crit, while good, is not as good as 21% attack. You are going to want to keep the necklace on for the mage piece because you get attack, skill damage. Overall, it's been the best performer overall. As far as enables go, for PvE, you are going to want to go with 2, 2, 3, 2, 1 in most cases, because most of the bosses will have some sort of CC or debuffs you want to get rid of. But in the rare occasion that you can go all out, you're going to want to change from Purify to Shared Fate, just for that extra damage as well. Building your support team is going to be huge, especially your Heart Watcher. Now, you don't need to take her to E5 like I did. That is a little excessive in my opinion. E3 would be a nice happy spot for endgame, but early game you want to try to get her up to 9-star as you're building your carry as well. Then, in my opinion, hold her at 9-star. Do not push her further until you have at least your first E5 carry. Once that happens, you can push her to 10-star, get the extra damage stacks, things like that, but then just save up copies to make her E3 a little bit later. You're going to want E3 Heart Watcher for broken spaces, things like that, mainly because of Purify, and it just gives her that extra survivability. You're eventually going to want a healer too. My recommendation with Skerei is Amun-Ra, just because she's much more versatile. She does very well with Skerei in PvP. It makes the Skerei so much more viable. I say viable. You're not going to be amazing, but you'll be able to do some Skerei burst sometimes. Skerei burst, get it? Okay, enough of that. But Amun-Ra will also be crucial in broken spaces 7 for you as well. Besides that, the only other support your team will need is a very, very cheap one, Deathsworn. 6-star Deathsworn, all you need him for is when he dies, burns all enemies for the rest of the fight, which means you will get full benefit of the Phoenix buff, because I know it's a lot of confusion in the game, but in reality, the Phoenix burn only lasts 1 round, even though it says it lasts 3. Don't know why they haven't really changed it. It also happens to be because of how the dot ticks at the end of the round, wastes the round, things like that. But if you have Deathsworn, that means you'll get 100% benefit from Phoenix no matter what round it is in the fight. It's an amazing budget hero to have in slot for PvE that you can swap out in PvP as well. Speaking of Phoenix, this is going to be the pet you want to build, and I recommend you build them pretty much up to 120. After that, you can kind of stop. But the big thing is I recommend doing the HP rune first, then attack, and then lastly speed, since I mean speed will be for PvP. It's not really needed for Skerei, because let's be honest, you're not building the team for PvP. You're building it for PvE damage to get those giant damage numbers, amazing damage, just a fun blast. I'm really hoping since they added World Arena in, they'll be adding some sort of World PvE content as well. Therefore, we can show off our amazing Skerei armies, right guys? I know there's a few of you out there. I love theory crafting, things like that. The one other thing I will say that is an option to build is a Sigmund with this team for the burn, the armor stripping, etc. Could be good. I personally am saving up. I might test him out for you. But overall, not really sure. As far as stones go, I forgot to mention this earlier. You're going to want to get crit attack on every Skerei. Best stone by far. If you use Deathsworn without not a Sigmund, Kiss of Ghosts is a god tier artifact for Skereis. God tier. He does so much more damage. This one Skerei right here, 90% of the time does a hefty amount more damage than my Skereis that have Punisher on. Occasionally he does less, I think mainly due to not critting sometimes, but that armor break is amazing. Anyway guys, if you guys have a Skerei team, you guys have any tips, comments, anything like that, throw them down in the comments for everybody else to read too. Like I said, this is just what worked for me, how I built my team up, dumped every last resource I had into this Skerei team, and it made it so good. We got Sealand 20 down with 3 Skereis and a Cruce. It was amazing. Actually, you know what guys, I will put a link in the description as well of the Reddit post I made for that clear, so you can see what I had and what it required. Do a bunch of searches in Reddit too if you're looking to do Abyss Sealand 20. There's a bunch of them out there. Some of them were very, very budget with anti-priest artifacts was the big thing, because you really got to kill the priest. But leave your comments, let everybody know what worked for you, any recommendations, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's been a long time coming and I really wanted to get it out, but I've been so busy, especially with the other account. So let me know what you think, and I'll see you guys in the next one.